It is late on July the 6th. So we recorded earlier today. You're listening to this on Thursday, but we recorded earlier our episode, and some big news came out right at, like, legit probably a few hours after we recorded. So we have to come back, sit down and talk about it. This is crazy. So it comes out today, a news article from Sudbury.com, that the KED, the Kingsway Entertainment District, yes, the one that we chat about and beat it like a dead horse all the time on this podcast, the price tag has doubled, more than doubled, to $215 million. And what's going to happen is that this is going to go to a vote at City Council next Tuesday at their next meeting, and it's in a go or no go situation. So everyone's going to vote if they're going to want to go through with this on a $215 million project that will be paid by the taxpayer. So that's what's going on. So before I dive into I'm going to go with an entire breakdown of the history of this project. But first, I will send it over to the boys to get initial reactions to this article. Tom.
So you're more familiar with this than I am, but wasn't it supposed to be like around, like, I don't want to sound dumb here, like around 100?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll get into it. There's a lot to break down as to why and how it got there.
Okay, so now they're gonna vote on this to go ahead with it.
Yes.
So
now with the revised price.
Okay, to me this is not even happening now. Okay,
it looks,
the writing's on the wall. It looks like
it looks. This could be one of the last times we ever chat about the KED. Now it could still go privately.
Yeah.
If the KED group wants to go and do it by themselves, which, like, I'll get into the history, was the original plan. That's where we're at right now. So that could happen, but in terms of the city being a part of the KED, it could all come to an end on Tuesday, which would be a happy day for some, a sad day for some, and an indifferent day for some, because some people are sick and tired of it. Some people just don't give a shit anymore about it. So yeah, Robby B, your reaction to the article before we get into the breakdown.
I think a lot of people potentially saw this coming, maybe not in necessarily the same way, but just from a sheer cost perspective, I think everyone knew that the initial budgeted cost from what feels now like an eternity ago, but initially was probably 4 or 5 years ago, Jim, and you'll go into the timeline, was definitely going to go up. The fact that it's now up to 200 and something million is now, you're looking at the cost of potentially like a smaller NHL sized rink, and it's an OHL team and a National Basketball League of Canada team. So why are we paying that? And B, the fact that it's going to be the taxpayers of Sudbury footing the bill. It's like, it makes no sense. What are we doing? So anyways, this is it's crazy time.
Absolutely nuts. Yeah. Okay. So I'll get into it now.
Let me hear it, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. So this all starts in 2015 after municipal election in 2014, and the council comes out with a big projects initiative where people are allowed to come to the table from outside the city to give their ideas on different projects on what to do. So the KED group comes out in 2015 and proposes a $60 million project, which would be owned by the Zulich Group for 30 years in exchange for loan guarantees and operating funds. So almost entirely footed privately by a group for $60 million at that time. So you got to keep in context. We're talking 2015 dollars. We're in a totally different world right now, but that's what it originally was, the first ever original idea of the KED. So it comes down a couple of years later, in 2016, the city comes to agreement that the city will foot the bill, and the taxpayers will foot the bill for this project. So they like the project, they want to go ahead with it, but the taxpayer will have a chunk to pay for it, which again could make people, some people will never ever use this type of facility, And why would they ever want to contribute to it if it's going to hit their property taxes, which that's the way it was going to be funded. It was going to raise their property tax by, I believe, 0.3%. I'll have to double check. There's a whole video on it, but I'll keep going. So it's agreed then. Okay. In 2017, Gateway Casinos comes out and says they're going to build with the KED. They want to be the casino on the property. Again, the casino is a very controversial part to the KED. People like the idea of a casino, don't like it. We've all heard the same story. So it comes to the point where council gets consulting for it. So again, they're paying hundreds and thousands of dollars for a consulting firm to pick between downtown, because there's the downtown group that started coming out against the KD. That's when the rivalry started, is as soon as this project came out. So PwC. Can someone help me out with that name? What do they call it?
Price Waterhouse Cooper.
Thank you very much. Consulting comes out and says, well, downtown is your better option, but the KD is a very close second. The KD has better parking. The downtown seems a little more viable, and that's what they say. But they said, regardless, each project, no matter what way you look at it, it's going to cost you around $100 million. So if you're going to build downtown, it doesn't matter. If you build it on the Kingsway, it's going to cost $100 million. So you can look at that from a consulting standpoint. Downtown won the consulting report. Well, it comes down to a vote in 2017, where the downtown idea was voted on first. So the way they did it was there's a bunch of ideas. There's a South End one, blah, blah, blah. But the main two, obviously, was the KED and the downtown. Downtown led off the meeting and led off the vote, which was voted 6-6. So we got 12 councilors, 6-6, while 11 with...
I'm with you. I'm so far with you right now.
Yeah. So tied 6-6. The KED comes. So in the council's rules, the council's bylaws, a tie on a vote is a loss. So downtown loss. KED comes around, it wins by a whopping 10-2. So now people say some councilors flipped because, well, if one failed, we need to get the other one through, kind of deal. They said it wasn't fair.
Which makes sense.
Which makes total sense, and I don't disagree with that. Maybe there's a different way they could have went around the voting, but this is how it was done. This is how it happened.
Brutal, in my opinion. So
KED wins 10-2. This is 2017. So, again, people are happy, people are mad, people are indifferent about what happened. So KED was set to go with a set date, and this is sad saying this now. It was supposed to open. Guess the date, the year it was supposed to open.
2020.
2021 was the date it was supposed to open. We're in 2022, and we are at the point that we mentioned earlier. So that happens, and again, now you have appeals out the wazoo. You have lawsuits here. That all of them, I believe, have been resolved now, all in the favor of the KED. But the biggest one was the LPAT, which was the Local Places Arbitral Tribunal, I believe. I may have butchered that name, but it's called LPAT. So LPAT, I believe, got this on their table around 2017, 2018. So now it got so bad that where we couldn't make a decision at our own table here in Sudbury, it had to go to a higher power, which was the Ontario government, to make a decision for us. Well, LPAT says, okay, we'll come with a decision in June of 2019. We get to June of 2019, it gets pushed back all the way to December 23rd, 2020, where what happens? Everything gets dismissed. LPAT says KED is good to go. It was always good to go. And there you have it. So that's December 2020. It was December 23rd, 2020. So just before Christmas it comes out. Well, what happens after that? You still have appeals here, a couple more there. They get a resolved. What happens? We have a pandemic in March. Okay, so everything gets pushed aside. Every little thing got pushed aside for COVID, which was something new we were dealing with. Made total sense. Everything got pushed aside. We get back to the table in 2021. All right, council goes, well, you know what? We should probably take another look at this. So in 2021, they get PwC to take another look. Okay. So the exact same consulting firm that said downtown was the more viable option in 2017 is now taking a look at it again past COVID, which makes sense. Prices have changed, everything. Okay, let's take another look at it. Let's see how much of a difference COVID has made. Okay, no problem. Well, report comes in June 8th, 2021. So just over a year ago, comes out and says the Kingsway Event Center could be built cheaper with less risk and more reward. So as I read through here, there's the two main questions that wanted to be answered were, have any of the elements about the project changed such that its potential for producing the desired outcomes is markedly different? And since 2017, and especially considering the effects of COVID-19, like I said, have there been any changes in the operating environment that would affect the project's success? Okay. So as I go through here, PwC pegs a 5,800 seat event center on the Kingsway to cost $15,000 to $16,000 a seat, or $113.8 million total, which includes a parking lot. So that's a year, just over a year ago, saying that it would cost $113.8 million. So another $13.8 million added to the Kingsway Entertainment District. Now that's compared to downtown, which is going to cost, after this new report, $128.6 million to modernize the Sudbury Arena. And that does not include the need for a parking structure. Building a new arena downtown would cost approximately $115.8 million. Again, this is not including parking. So you look at it at face value. Okay, I think we talked about this legit a year ago. I'll have to take a look at the podcast.
Yeah.
The KED was the cheapest option at that time. Now, maybe you say, okay, it's $2 million different to build a new one downtown. I get that. But that's not including parking for the downtown. I'm just putting the facts on the table. So that's what it was. So again, we put another $100,000 in a consulting report that now flip-flop and said, well, okay, the KED's probably more cheaper for you to do. Okay, sounds great. We fast forward now, everything's been paused. Gateway Casinos came out during 2021 and said they wanted to take a step back before everything. They want everything finalized before they continued any type of spending on the KED. And now we are here in this point where it now costs $215 million to build the KED. So now a couple questions that come for me.
Mm-hmm.
How could the price go up $100 million just over a year? How is that so possible that can happen? And how much does revitalizing downtown or building a brand spanking new one downtown cost now? Those are questions I have for that. And let me break down the $250 million now. $186.1 million will be toward the construction of the municipal arena event center building and associated exclusive site works, including parking and a shared space between three facilities, which also includes a private casino and private hotel called Festival Square. $3 million for the second phase of the design development, $21.3 million toward the city of Greater Sudbury's portion of shared site development costs, $3.8 million of cost to date. So they've already put $3.8 million already, Tom, to date into this project, and $400,000 toward HST. So now we are here, and that is what it's going to cost for the KED. We've waited. It is to the point where we've waited too long to make any financial sense. For people that want to know the financials, I'll tell you, when it was originally the financing plan for when it was originally supposed to be built, was financed at a 3.6 interest rate, and debt repayments were to be $5.5 million over 30 years. Now, there was many other cash options that would bring that price down, such as they had a long-term debt that they were going to get rid of in 2023, which is around $2.3 million. So that's where we're at. That's how the finance is going to happen. But We are here now. It costs $100 million more. And my question is why? I know why it took so long, but why? How could it get that much higher? And that's where we're at.
Okay.
So that's my breakdown. That's the best I could do. There's a video on Sudbury.com. You can watch it all from 2018, but that is my most updated version on the KED.
Roberto, you or me first here.
You go ahead, Tom Bob.
Okay. So I got a few questions. Take a sip of water, Chim. Why didn't taxpayers like my parents or your parents or whoever, Chim, have a chance to vote on this in the first place? I know like the 12 board members or whatever. Okay. I don't know the terms and that. I'm not really in on that. If we're going to be the people using it, why aren't we voting like yes or no?
Yeah. And I mean,
technology these days, you can easily put out a poll out here. Do it.
For sure. I mean, they could have had maybe like a referendum on it,
Okay.
On that also costs a lot of money too.
Okay,
Right?
I get
And-
it. I
yeah,
get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
Put the dollars. I don't care about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
What I'm more mad about is 12 people made this decision for like the king of the north, Sudbury. You know how far ahead North Bay and the Sioux are with complexes compared to us? It's actually embarrassing. North Bay just spent what, $40-50 million on a new casino, just a new casino themselves. You could have had a brand new complex along with a casino for 150 million if you just did it in 2015. So
No,
we already went through this. Is it gonna attract what, X amount of new jobs? Everyone's complaining that, you know, so and so, I don't like working here. My boss is this, whatever. Okay, this place here is gonna attract brand new job opportunities for everybody. Casino, you know, if there's a restaurant at the rink, whatever there was, like whatever his plan was. So I think I'm losing you here, Jim. I'm not sure, but I know you're still here. You look a little glitchy, but
okay, 1 second. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. You know. But
okay.
yeah,
Go
keep
ahead, Roberto.
going. No, keep going. I was just gonna say, but I think it really highlights the point of our elected officials, especially in council, and how useless our Sudbury council has been over the last, I want to say, at least 2 terms. And I know I'm almost preaching to the choir here with everything that we've talked about, but if this doesn't highlight the need for the young demographic in Sudbury to vote and to run for election, run for election coming up here in the fall, I don't know what else will. If we don't get young people in Sudbury Council, this is going to continue to happen where they flip-flop on things. They don't really care. Things get pushed aside. And you can ask any Sudbury resident, the city's growth over the last 30 years has been atrocious and has been stagnant. And it's hard to look anywhere else other than council as the reason why. So anyways, Tom, I'm going to push it right back to you. You can go ahead.
Okay, great point, because you mentioned the youth for like, you know, decisions like this, but it goes with like everything. It goes with coaching. It goes with young referees in sport. Like every association, whatever sport you look at, is ran by, let's say, older people, like the older generation. And they look at the youth as like we're nothing, but it's like we kind of actually have a vision and a plan for maybe Sudbury. It's like they know the answer to everything is basically what I'm saying. It's just like what I don't get is all of us. We've been to Toronto, we've been to Ottawa, we've been to all these cities that are way ahead of us. Let's just say 30-40 years ahead of us. And we always come back on road trips from a hockey tournament in Toronto, let's say, or whatever, a soccer tournament, and we're like, how come we can't have a complex like this? Let's just say, let's go to North Bay for an hour and a half. We leave that city for a weekend coaching, and we're like, see the rink we just played in? How come we can't do it when our population's way bigger? It makes no sense how, like I mentioned before, we're supposed to be the king of Northern Ontario, and it's honestly a disgrace to live here, like for how far behind we are. And
I think and everyone makes good points. It's difficult. It's a difficult one to digest, because you know what, even if it was to be built downtown or wherever, I like,
just do it though. Who cares where it is?
Like, you know what I mean? Like just build it like it or
Going
build
to Sudbury
something.
Arena, dude, is actually like embarrassing now. Like you can't even have like well-known concerts here either, like well-known artists anymore.
Yeah,
Like because they don't want to come play here.
yeah.
It's definitely
Like,
hurting the economy now for sure. And I mean, Tom, here's the thing that I look at is from at the first step of the process that Jim outlined back in 2015, why did council and the city need a piece of the pie at that point? And like, I think
Thank you.
everyone's frustration at that point was if we have private funding to build this world-class facility, and that's what it
Do
was
it.
way back then, why are we stopping them? And that's money from, you know, it's not necessarily only from Northern Ontario. That's money from down south. That's money from across Canada. You know, whether it was through, you know, the law firm and Tesk and what have you. Like that's an influx into the Sudbury economy plus the tourism dollars it's going to bring in. So why are we stopping that to be a little bit greedy in terms of, you know, owning a piece of the management pie or owning a piece of the ownership pie? I look at it as, why were we not looking at the long-term tax benefit for the city at that point of additional spending and, you know, concert tickets and the operational spending of that facility and the taxes that they would be bringing in versus a purely ownership perspective. But again, I think that just goes back to the city's view on parks and rec. And, you know, we have 0 corporate owned parks, you know, in the Sudbury region for that particular thing. Like, why are all the hockey arenas owned by the city? Well, because they block any private construction trying to come in here. And if you look at how they're run operationally and on the management side, they're not making money. They're costing taxpayers. And I think if more people paid more attention to how much our parks and facilities are costing us, they'd probably question why we're spending the millions of dollars in taxpayer money each year on them. And I think this highlights it as well, as like it was a missed opportunity. Now we're at this point where the price tag, I think, is way too large for the KED ownership team, including, you know, the Zulich family to kind of swallow on their own. So now we're at a point that there's no new facility that's going to be built. The Sudbury Arena is going to sit there. It's going to continue to deteriorate. The people who don't understand the structural issues and the operational issues of the facility will continue to be naysayers of, you know, why we need a new facility. And at the end of the day, it's going to result in one of two things. One is eventually, you know, knock on wood, pray, you know, hope to the gods that the private money will be able to come in and build the facility the way that we need, whether it's through this investment through the KED or another, you know, ownership group. Or two, the facility is going to go down and deteriorate to a certain point where it's not going to meet OHL standards to host an OHL team. It's not going to meet, you know, the NBL Canada standards to host a basketball team. And it's certainly not going to adhere up to standards to host all the different events that the Sudbury Arena needs to host. And I mean, you could see that it's no surprise that the concerts and the events that have come into the city over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years, that's a direct reflection of the facility itself. So those are only continue to go down. We probably have maybe a 10-year window of time left in this facility where we're going to have to decide, are we retrofitting it? Are we building it or not? And unfortunately, a new facility is not going to be built tomorrow. So the longer we wait, the longer we're pushing for a Sudbury Arena facelift, which is just going to be another waste of taxpayer dollars. So as a Sudbury resident, it's frustrating. As a young person in the city, it's even more frustrating because we talked about the city's growth and the ability for it to just be very prosperous. And unfortunately, it's going to be stagnant, especially if we have this, you know, this council municipality at the helm. So let's hope for change, boys.
Wow.
Yeah, well said, Roberto. I mean, there's not much more to add. You look at it, it's been 7 years old, so that's 2 terms of a council and a mayor where nothing was able to get done, and we're at the point of no return. I'm reading a quote here too. It says one particular person who I won't name, and people can read the article, but it says that who is a council member They cannot support the staff's recommendation except the cost of $250 million for a new event center, knowing that the St. Catharines and Meridian Center was constructed at 2014 for $54.7 million. The Meridian Center is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's an amazing rink, but it's funny. That's 2014.
I think you know what you're going to say.
$54.7 million. And in 2015, at the table, the original cost, $60 million, not far off of the Meridian Center, and we didn't do anything about it. We had the chance, and we didn't do anything about it, and now here we are. That's
close. That's it.
That is where we are. It's a sad day for Sudbury, and it's not over yet. You could say it's very close. Like the empty netter was put in. Now there's 20 seconds off on the clock. We'll see what they're going to vote on Tuesday. But that is it. It is not a good day for Sudbury. Listen, I'm not pro KED. I'm not pro downtown. I'm pro growth. And there's no growth in anything that we're doing here with Sudbury. Another thing I'd like to add to even put matters worse, and it's not a bad thing at all, but council just committed to the $98.5 million Junction East project. We'll see a new art gallery, a new library, which is great. That's amazing. The city needs it. But that just goes to show you, that project was on hold for, I want to say like almost as long as a KED, maybe even longer than the KED, which probably tripled in price already, whatever. I don't know much about that, but what I can tell you about the KED is that it's at the point of no return. I feel bad for anyone that's put their, blood, sweat, and tears into just, making Sudbury and doing something good for this city, because I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not losing the faith yet, but if it does come down, and we'll talk about in the next spot too, the decision, but it will be a sad day. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't reach a decision come then too. So that's where we are. My final points that I'll leave you with is this. What's the plan now? Like Roberto mentioned, what's the plan now that there's no if it doesn't go through, what's the plan now? Because now you're going to go through another hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of dollars of more consulting of figuring out, okay, what else can we do now? It proves that almost nothing can be built here in Sudbury. And unless it's got to be a sheer miracle. And you have that, the stars have to align for anything to be built, especially privately. You cannot build privately here in Sudbury. That's, to me, a fact. At this point, you look at North Bay, you look at the Sioux, even Timmins, for God's sake, they are miles ahead of what is the capital of the North in Sudbury. Miles ahead. And their city is able to figure out, okay, even if it is a public place, they're able to get it done. That's the difference that's the difference why people are going to move to North Bay, to the Sioux, wherever, over Sudbury, because there are structures there in place to grow family, to grow. There's no place to grow right now in Sudbury, and this just starts with there's our housing, everything, our downtown. There's so much other stuff other than a goddamn arena that needs to get fixed. University. That we're not even close. Like Sudbury's had so many bad news stories in terms of growing that, it's really disheartening to see. And it's just been a tough 7 years for Sudbury in terms of growth, in my opinion, like Tom just mentioned, Laurentian. So what's the plan now? It proves that nothing can be built here. And I'll start the odds right now, Tom. What would the odds be that Sudbury loses the Wolves and the Five before a new arena gets built? What would you set the odds at today? We know ownership has come out and said we'll never leave Sudbury, but at what point is enough?
It's got to be favorite. Like you ain't making, yeah.
So I don't know.
Even line -110. Like
it could prove to be destructive. But what I'll say is I'm pro growth, no matter what side of the coin you flip it. But in what happened here today, there is no growth, and it's too bad. It really is. It really is. And that's where we're at right now. So there's a decision going to be made. If you want to tune in, you can live stream it. It's Tuesday, I believe 6 p.m. council meeting. The fate of the KED, the fate of growth in Sudbury will be put on the line, and we'll see what happens. So we'll be back with that. We had to come on and chat about it. Any final words from the boys? Good, Tom.
I think you wrapped it up pretty good, Jim.
Yeah,
Robbie,
great breakdown, Jim. Now, if this doesn't inspire young people to get involved in the in our community, whether at council or at other levels, guys, I'm not sure what will. So if you're mad about it, let's funnel that together. Let's do something about it.
for sure. And that's the KED. We'll get on with the rest of the show.